My name is Gabriella Valsecchi. I'm a bioenergetics practitioner from Central Coast, California. I work with small animals, large, and people. When this whole thing came about with Fukushima, and we've heard many of the aspects about the people and the farming and the cities and the whatnot, I live in a little place of 1,000 people in wine country. There's probably more horses than there are people and grapes put together there. So what appealed to me and the question I asked was, well, what happened to the animals? And what would I do if it was me? What if it happened here? And so that question stuck in my mind, and I percolated for a couple of months, and it led me to take a closer look and think about it a little bit. And as things line up, as they do in the universe and Kismet and what have you, I got an invitation to go to Japan and take a look at the areas firsthand. We had made a connection and a liaison with this fellow, Mr. Hosokawa, and let me back up one sec. The many faces of the Fukushima pets. So people got up. Basically, the tsunami hit, people got up and they ran. Most of them didn't take their pets. As pet owners, your pets are either in the yard, in the house, in the neighborhood. If they're horses or cattle, they're in the pen, they're in the pasture, they're in the hillside. You see them, you don't see them. Chances are you may or may not have a horse trailer or a big enough vehicle to take all your pets. So pets got left behind. Some of them got blasted by radiation and were killed. Some of them died slowly from being in these pens, these crates, these yards, because they were tied. Many people didn't really think about, well, being away months. You thought, well, maybe, they probably left him a couple of days of food and some water, and that ran out. So the devastation, it's not only people, it's things that got left to suffer and die, sometimes a slow death. There were small animals, there were large. There are groups forming on a grassroots level for small animals. There's a few folks working with the large animals and the cattle. The cattle can't be used for the milk or the meat or any of the things that they were before. The kind of interesting thing about Japan is I think they're the original foodies. My experience there is the people with the small farms. It's not like big factory farms like here in the States. It's small farms. And what we saw is somebody have an orchard of prize Fuji apples, and somebody else is raising fourth-generation cattle, Kobe beef, and they're like really cool. And somebody else would have the best raspberry. It's just amazing how much they're into their food. When you go to the store, you don't go to like Albertsons or one of these places. You go to something sometimes smaller than this front row of the auditorium, and everything is so vibrant. The fruits, the vegetables, everything is vibrant, and it's labeled. You know exactly where it came from and what it is. Fantastic. There's no little stickers that say, oh, this is conventionally grown, or, oh, this is organic. Everything is beautiful, and on a small scale. Fukushima, the area where we were, 25 miles outside, away from the plant, large farming area, they can't do it. Their soil's dirty, their water's dirty, air's dirty. There are a few people who stayed behind to fight for their farms and their animals. And I think that's the next slide. This fellow, Mr. Hosokawa, his home is with the horses. He's a third-generation horse farmer. He lives off the land. And he's from, anyone got horses here? No? Oh, yeah. Well, horse culture is special in that they will give, on a good day, we'll give and sacrifice for our animals and do just about anything for them, mortgage the house, whatever it takes. On a bad day, well, this is Mr. Hosokawa's life now. So after the initial wave of you must evacuate and whatnot, he played a game of cat and mouse for about 7 months, hiding his herd. teaching them tricks, doing things like teaching them tricks to entertain the officials. He trains movie horses, commercial horses, and horses for a very special event. They have like the, if you will, the Summer Olympics every year. Every year there's Year of the Horse, because they have a traditional horse fair and horse race in that area where all the breeders bring their best horses and they dress up in costume and they play traditional games. I think that's the next slide. Here it is, traditional costume, racing these horses, pageantry, the food, the pageantry, just amazing. They've been doing this for about 1,000 years. Now it's hard to do it because there's no horses, hardly. Their race is kind of like here in America, the Kentucky Derby, Rolex jumping, and rodeo all combined. It's like a wow event. It's part of the samurai tradition. It's they're still trying to hold it the last week in July yearly, and for my part, I've committed to making several trips to work on horses and help the people who can and want help to get their horses and their stock ready to do this exhibition that is held yearly. I think it's the next one. So obviously no food. When we were there was about 5 feet of snow. The water the horses, the animals drink, whether it's his horses or other livestock, they're drinking from streams. That, the food is imported. It's arriving from other countries. The hay, for you horse people, was gorgeous. Obviously, as we heard earlier, the feedstuffs, the contaminated soil, contaminated water would make contaminated food. So in his own efforts, he's been blessed to be able to bring in better food for these animals. Some of them, it's interesting, I saw before pictures, and there are several of these horses that survived the initial radiation blast. The one on the far right, the chestnut, that means the light brown one, and the white one hiding behind his jacket. So this is 3 years later. I think that's pretty amazing and gives us a small glimmer of hope as to the resiliency of animals and maybe people. The picture on the right shows him with one of his foals shortly after the incident, and he was quoted as saying, when he saw the birth of the new foals in March, so it's foaling time, when he saw the birth of the new animals, he just flat couldn't leave. He couldn't leave those little souls to die. He couldn't leave them to suffer. He couldn't leave them. So he stood and he fought for his farm. So, I think it's the next one. He continues on. So the guards, the officials come by on a regular basis to check his farm and his horses, and everything does a trick. It lifts its legs, it sits. He had one lie down in the mud, which is kind of like sacrilege if you're a horse person, but it willingly laid down in the mud and did tricks for us. It was truly amazing. But that's what you got to do if you're going to make it these days, I guess. Next slide. I had an opportunity. I have a holistic practice, Central Coast, California, and after we had made initial contact with Mr. Hasakawa and a small animal rescue, I asked them about, do you have some supplies? Do you have stuff? How are you dealing with this? And it was like, well, this and that, veterinary medicine, IVs. Okay, and how's that going? Feedback. Well, do you have any other things? No, we don't know what that is. Would you be open to trying something different to help you and your animals? Yes. 8,900-mile trip later. And after many gallons of tea, so Akira touched on it, nothing moves very fast there. I'll breeze in, okay, I got an interpreter, I got a note taker, it's going to be great. Done. None of that happened. breezed in. Oh, after making it past the snowplow, sat down for hours of tea, drank gallons of tea. This is how it goes with anything you do there. It doesn't just like, well, do it. The Japanese think we're abrupt, because we're so oriented toward action. And it's not so. Gallons of tea, more gallons of tea. Here's some oranges. Oh my God, can we do this? Finally, we make it out to the barns and we get to visit the horses. And we're talking, and like any good horse person, he shows us his best horses, not the ones that need the most help. Shows us the best horses. And we're able to have a dialogue, and it's starting to get a little more real. I said, and I'm thinking to myself, you unpacked about 30 pounds of your suitcase, including your favorite dress, to literally, I hand-carried this stuff in. I stuffed it in my bag. I made it look like, nothing as best I could, and mercifully we breezed through customs. Well, I brought you this stuff. Well, what is this? So all my labels written in American. I brought him some clay. I brought him some chlorophyll, and a chlorophyll that's got aloe vera in it. I brought him some homeopathics and some mineral support, some plant-based mineral support. Well, and I didn't put a name on it. I said, here's some support. He looked at it and he goes, natural radiation medicine. And we looked at each other and the tears started coming down the face. And this is a 60-year-old, tough old horse guy. They don't cry for nothing. We're both crying. It's like, oh man, okay. I get it, you get it, okay, good. And it's like, all right, it's all written in English. So far, we got the interpreter and me. It's like, all right. So I made a scrib notes, love notes, these notes. But it's like, oh, paper in the barn. I know what happens to paper in the barn. Gone. All right. So we got out Sharpies. Said, all right, here's how we're going to do this. So we got the interpreter, another professor in the area, to actually take and write what it was, what it does, how to use it, how much to use of it on all the packages of stuff. So I thought, all right, there's hope. This is cool. So at a grassroots level, it's like, all right, here's some more tools to help you and your animals. Very simply, these are remedies to quell the chemical fire in the body, soothe the damaged tissues, and support healing from the inside out, and that's what it's about. The other thing I didn't write, also to help, if you will, balance the electrical body, because that has a big to do in any kind of healing, in my opinion. So that had to do with the homeopathics. Anyway, so next. Oh yeah. So then, and to talk about stress, and we talked about the head game of anything a little bit. Everybody's touched on it just a tad. So every night, the weather report is followed by the radiation report. Oh, well, it's going to be 2 degrees, and you get some snow, and it's like, well, then check it out. Let's have some millisieverts. It's like, what? I'm looking, and I whipped out my camera, and I think we watched the news twice. It's like, am I really seeing this? I guess it's what they do here. So I got a couple of screenshots. Right in the hotel lobby in public areas, posted, here's what it is today, folks. And like was alluded to, it's like, well, the little doses, it's, to me, what I heard when you were talking about that was, it sounded almost like homeopathics, and homeopathics are almost stronger than some physical agents, so it's like, okay, little blast. I could see why and how the cancer rates would go up anywhere that we're receiving little blasts of a substance. And the next slide. And I'm agreeing with Akira. The situation in Japan requires an international effort on many levels to bring it into healing. And it starts with us. It starts inside. It starts with who we are as a people. It's consciousness. It's reaching out. It's all the other things. Writing, talking, calling to anyone who'll listen. So I chose to be an animal ambassador at a grassroots level. This is my little cause. I just thought it up. I've been reaching out to other larger organizations in my area as far as shipping things and getting help and that sort of thing, but I don't plan to stop. And I invite you all to join me in being animal ambassadors, or being ambassadors, people ambassadors, because they need our help. Even if it's just one little thing at a time, one little bag of clay, one water filter, it all makes a difference. It all makes the world better. So I thank you for your time today, and I'm more of a doer than a speaker. I hope you've enjoyed this